Hi, welcome to our tutorial where we will learn about OpenURL searching and the different action links and statuses in Yankee Book Peddler's GOBI interface. Before we look at the action links and statuses, I want to point out that each ISBN number next to each title is hyperlinked. If you click on that link, it's going to take you over to another screen. And from here, if you click on Go next to Check Availability and Cameo, it'll link you directly to our local catalog, and you can check to see whether or not we already own the item or if it's on order. This first title, Contemporary Chinese Politics, we can see that not only is the title in there, but it's also checked out. Let's go back to our GOBI screen. Our first example on the right, if we click on the action link Ship to Library, it gives us some additional details. On this window, we see that the item was shipped, the date, on the approval plan, and which fund. If we use our scroll bar, on the right we see that it has an invoice number and it even has a link to tracking information. If we were to click on that, it would tell us exactly where the item is now. Let's go back to our GOBI screen. Our second example, Familiar Strangers, also has that same action link Ship to Library, but when we click on it, we'll get some different details. In this window, we see by looking at the bottom line, which is always the oldest action to the item, that it was a firm order and it was shipped on the Rush account. Gives us some of the same information, the date, the fund. This one will have a PO number because it is a firm order. And then when you look at the top line, which is always the most current action, it gives you again that invoice number, tracking number, along with the date that it was shipped out, which for this title was the same day. Back to our folder, our third title, we see the status is returned by library, and when we click on that, we'll get a few more details about it. This one tells us when it was shipped out originally on the approval plan and when YBP received it back at their warehouse. It's usually approval items that are returned. Sometimes firm orders are returned if they're damaged. If you ever see the status of returned by library and it was an approval book, we can go ahead and place a firm order for that. There's no problem to order it again. Back to our next title. Before we move on, there's one thing I did want to point out, the Rush status area of the title. If it is available Rush through YBP, we will try to order it through them, and we have a very fast turnaround time if we order it Rush through Yankee. Our next example does not have any action links in that right frame. If we go back and we look at the publishing year, 2005, it's a few years old, and even though the status says that orders are accepted, which means YBP will order it for us even though it's not in stock. Last time it was received by YBP was in 2007. This would make us think the title is most likely out of print, and we would use another vendor that readily has the title available. Our next title in the folder lists actually out of print, sourced to an out of print supplier. We don't use Yankee for out of print books, so again we would use another vendor to obtain that title. The next item in our folder, Raising Dust, is an easy one. In that right hand frame we see that a slip was sent, and that indicates that it was an electronic slip sent on the approval. We see that it is in stock and that it's available Rush, so we would get that pretty fast from Yankee Book Peddler. Our next to the last title in our folder has an older pub year but says it's in stock. We would most likely go ahead and place that order with Yankee to receive it, but because it hasn't been received since 2006, most likely that price that you see listed there, even though it's in stock, is higher. And we wouldn't know that until we ordered the item, exactly how much that title would be. Hey, we're on our last title already. Urban Nightscapes was published in 2003, has a status of orders accepted, which means Yankee will order it for us, but they haven't handled it for a few years. Acquisitions most likely would not place an order with Yankee and would try to find it elsewhere, assuming the title is probably out of print. This concludes today's tutorial. If you have any questions, please contact us here in the Acquisitions Department. Thank you for joining us today.